everyone! Welcome to Scala's super awesome Sephiroth fan site. I hope you all are here for a wonderful time. I have so many screenshots of all the FMVs, all of them. I got the MIDI files from the PC version. I also I got some fan art. So be sure to have a good time, sign my guest book, and oh, I'm sorry, I didn't make it so you can see my fan art. I apologize. But yeah. Hi Solaris, hi Ed.
Hi. Hi. Remember, do not accept any substitutes, only accept legitimate late 90s Sephiroth fan art by Scala. Do not accept counterfeit late 90s Sephiroth fan art. If you need an appraisal, please make sure to bring it to us so we can check for you.
Do you think I need more glitter? I think I need more glitter.
You always need more glitter. So much more glitter.
I've always felt that any restream we do could be improved with additional blingy, so this is really helping out quite a bit.
Oh,
yeah, we need to up our glitter quotient, per stream. Well, and our Sephiroth quotient, clearly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I got all the different versions. I got down the bottom. There's original Nomura sketch, and then Advent Children Before Crisis, Crisis Core. Then we got Dissidia, Opera Omnia, World of Final Fantasy, and finally Remake. The thing is, I could keep going. I could find more and more obscure Sephiroth, official Sephiroth art and appearances.
Yeah, and more on Scala's super awesome Sephiroth fan site on mooncities.com.
I think the boss tracking thing is interesting because it shows how the nose has gotten less pointy over time. If you sort of look at it chronologically.
At the start, it was just...
I mean, I basically everything that Square Enix has been doing for the last 25-ish years has just been finding ways to use technology to make Sephiroth more and more attractive, and I stand by that. Anyway, we actually need to talk about Final Fantasy IV, but not sorry for the amount of psychic nostalgia damage I just inflicted on anyone. So, anyway, go ahead, have fun with the actual stuff. Bye!
That glitter is going to be here forever now. There's no getting rid of glitter once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is the first Blue Moon Waning bracket match of Zemus Zone 5. This is the first time we will have on a restream a match where someone, once they are gone, once they lose, is out of the tournament for good. So everything to play for both Lenophis and Boney. I'm joined on the restream behind the scenes by Scala Kitty and her super awesome Sephiroth fan site, on the tracking by Darth Plague, and of course on commentary with Solaris. How are you doing today?
Hi. My brain is just filled with GeoCities nostalgia. But bringing it back in to the race, we have bosses. We could talk about that in a moment, but for now we're starting the race.
Absolutely, and getting the Kane and Cecil sort of berserker power couple start with a full moon, which is not great unless we find an edge, but these are two characters you've got to be happy to see in these flags.
Yeah, so that Baigan boss was the evil wall, so that's not a boss we're hunting down, so good to know for later. And then also we get the reverse vanilla, right, of the Kane and the DKC. But yeah, it's a good start. It's a very good starting party.
Absolutely. It's worth going over some of these bosses that we have too. Kind of looking at it, there's only really one boss among the sort of, well, maybe two bosses among the not guaranteed bosses that could pose a problem if they're in the wrong spot, I would say, with that Cagnazzo and that Odin. The rest seem pretty tameable. Elements can be a bit tricky in some spots. Octoman can be bad in a punchy spot, but overall, you gotta be probably a bit happy to see this boss setup, as we're seeing both of the twins here in Dissidia.
Wait, very important question. Is this true vanilla or reversed vanilla?
I don't know.
Pelham and then Porum, I think that's true vanilla, right?
No.
It's reversed vanilla. Okay. Because we had reversed vanilla to start, and then the it's just there's just a lot of vanilla going on screen at the moment. Sorry, I can actually talk about the match. The bosses are interesting to me because almost all of them have an elemental weakness that you want to keep in mind. So I think these runners are going to keep in mind thunder weakness, especially for 2 of them, fire, lightning, and ice. So I think that's the thing that stands out for me.
Definitely, and with that Palom available, that will help. Here is another white mage as well. I don't think that Porum is long for this party, with a Rosa being added. The first non-vanilla character we're finding in this seed over on Mount Ordeals for Boney. It looks like Leno is going to be following right over to also pick up this character. What would you say is what you're looking for at this point in time for those 2 remaining character slots we haven't seen yet?
Honestly, I'm very happy. I've got a Cecil, I've got a white mage, I've got a Kane to get me through the early game, and actually I've got twin magic to get me through the early game. I mean, an anchor of some sort, I guess I'm going to be interested in eventually, but I think I have what this party says to me right now is that you have the power to just go use twin cast and start, blowing through the early game. I think another alternative to go is what we see Boney doing here, running to Eblin Castle immediately, because we're in T Wildish, and T Wildish has really great variety of loot and weaponry, and Kane can wear a lot of it to get going also early game.
Definitely. Would you say that it's worth keeping those twins around for later, and possibly, say you don't want the 2 white mages in your party right away, maybe leaving that Rosa off and picking her back up when you're closer to a grind, or just so you can carry that twin magic through? Or would you be more on the line of, I kind of want my party right now to resemble what I'm going to have late game here? So we do see Boney picking up a Mira, but not anything too exciting there, and a tower key from Bedward.
Yep, tower key for Bedward. Actually very good to have, knowing you're guaranteed to go down the hook route. As far as characters go, for me, I'd rather have Twin Cast and Stardust Rod for Boney on the right there. That's a really great pickup for that Palom. Also going to just do good work using as an item early game. But yeah, I honestly, when I see Rosa and Porum immediately early game, but I have a Palom, I really like taking the Porum over the Rosa because she gets online earlier, and you do have a hook route to go down and contend with, and you get that Twin Cast, which is very, very strong early game.
Definitely. I would wonder, the only thing that I would wonder with that is, now that we have that Stardust Rod picked up on Boney's side, is that going to lower the importance of that Twin Cast for him now that he has another way of dealing that sort of free damage? It's not quite as strong as Twin Cast can be, but it is completely free, no cast time, you don't have to worry about keeping both of them up, it can be a bit safer. Kind of makes me wonder if that will play into his party composition, whereas Leno not having that Stardust Rod might be a bit more wanting to hold on to that Porum for longer.
I think for Boney, it very well might. I think you're right about that analysis. And also, we have a Cecil in the party, which means that we don't need Zot to get access to exit on Rosa, which ends up being another kind of thing against her if, let's say, there's no Cecil in the seed. But yeah, I think Boney is getting a strong amount of power here. I don't know if I saw a weapon for Kane necessarily, but that Stardust Rod alone, you could take a Siren on Ordeals and get him pretty quickly towards Virus, and then Virus plus Stardust Rod is going to kind of blow really anything up that you want early game.
Definitely. I think the big question on Boney's side with a lot of that loot is, it feels like we've got a lot of good edge equipment. We've seen that Mira pulled on Boney's side. We've got that full moon from the start to make sure that he's back road. So if we find an edge somewhere, that is going to be very, very important for Boney's side. They did all that looting. If not, then really only that Stardust Rod feels like it's paid off, as we are finding a different Edward.
I was going to say, we found an Ed. You willed an Ed into the seed. Not the right
Honestly,
Ed,
this one's fine.
Yeah, he's a good anchor. If we get a spoon, he will honestly be great.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of
go that way.
I've seen a lot of Spoonward play in this tournament, honestly, so far, just early game to get you through that. So if we do hit that early spoon, going to be very important, but the odds of that are fairly low, given that we don't have too many spots left on the overworld possible, and if we find more, it's because we used up one of those key item spots to basically just give us another shot at it. So it's kind of a question of whether or not that will ever come into play. But definitely a good anchor pickup is really good right now.
Yeah, and honestly, by the time the spoon comes up, we might have said no to the Edward anyways. But yeah, it kind of just depends when it shows up, and if we've got party relative elsewhere, or relative power elsewhere in the party. That was a weird mouthful. With a Cecil in the party, a Castle Eblin has so much value in those traps since there is such a strong shot at getting a tier 8 item. If I'd say if our runners find a crystal sword, for instance, for that Cecil, probably like don't really need the spoon word on top of it. Like crystal sword Cecil is just that strong.
Definitely. We're finding a Sid here at the top of Damsian over on Boney's side and soon to be on Leno's side. That's another good potential anchor too. If we find that Cursed Ring, we find that Dwarf Axe, that can be a good way of getting an anchor through the seed and one who can be relevant in that Z fight as a very strong chemist. So maybe that Edward just lost a little bit of value there. But on the whole, this is a pretty interesting party. We've got a sort of 3 mages and kind of 2 berserkers, and then 1 sort of berserker, and then 1 basically an anchor with a lot of health.
Yeah, notably with an Edward and a Sid to finish off this party, like I'd kind of been thinking those first 5 party members are really good and functional and are gonna likely be the party members for both of our teams. Now, I think Boney can actually lean on Porum as an anchor. Porum, I want to say, has 7 agility, base agility, even though she gets faster than her twin with later levels. And since we don't really need the 2 white mages, Boney can kind of lean on her as an anchor, whereas Lenophis, not having that Stardust Rod, really going to want to lean on that twin magic early, and then probably just figure his anchor out later, or figure their anchor out later, I imagine.
Definitely, as we are going to find our first boss objective here in the Watery Pass, this Odin here. This is not a particularly easy boss to find in this location where we don't have anything really in terms of levels or anything to go off of.
This is very dangerous. This spot is very fast because it's vanilla Octomam. Yeah, and we see a wipe on Lenophis' side. So this spot has an incredible... it's incredibly fast because vanilla Octomam, every couple times that you hit it, starts losing tentacles and loses agility while that's happening. And anchored with Kane, who's pretty fast here and not really having any power kind of to speak of, we see both people kind of wiping. Both of our runners wiping to the fight, gonna have to come back. The spot also has, I want to say, 2,500 hit points. And not worth a lot of EXP, which is why we really never see the waterfall check unless there's boss hunts to be done. So as soon as we get lit 2, which will be rather soon on Palom, we can come back and take care of it pretty easily at least.
Definitely, and just having the knowledge that that boss is there, you just need to remember to come back later, which should be pretty easy for our runners to do. So not really doing a lot of looting over on Boney's side since he did all of that Castle Eblin check, but Lenophis does find a dancing dagger here on the way down, so that's a little bit of a power spike. Finding Mom Bomb down here at the bottom of Antlion Cave, though.
Yeah, dancing dagger is will let Kane be useful if he didn't roll up on his Neki equipment, though really leaning on Twin Cast is going to be kind of the play here. Boney only getting a 300 something hit point Twin Cast, kind of an odd quirk. The twin whose magic attack stat, the wisdom is used, ends up being more of a priority thing. So that Porum being in the bottom slot and then Palom comes later. This is what, slot 3 and then Palom's slot 4. It ended up using Porum's magic attack stat instead of Palom's. That's why it did less damage there. Because you probably would have expected more of like a 600. Which could be relevant later, not so much here. Yeah, that's the 660 we see on the left there for Lenophis, with those twins basically swapped in location.
Definitely, and one thing worth noting on Leno's side as well, they have picked up a power shirt on the way down Antlion Cave too.
Ooh,
one of those things
that's a good piece of armor.
Real good to find. That strength bonus will help that Kane out immensely for now. Might be swap that over to the Cecil later, depending on what we find for swords, what we find for spears. But either way, a good sort of way of getting yourself started. And we're going to see a twin harp here from this Antlion Cave.
An early game power shirt with all the strength that's on it is worth many, many levels of multipliers. It's a pretty good pickup. We do need a weapon to go with it though. Like Dancing Dagger actually has some okay attack stat on it, if that's what Kane jumped with. He might have also just jumped with whatever, spear or sword he came with. But yeah, very great pickup for a Zerker later, especially Cecil. Mute Dagger also here in Outline. That's very nice to see. But yeah, especially for Cecil, who is just waiting to find a crystal sword.
Definitely. The real question is, how long can you afford to stay above ground? And with that Twin Heart, that's going to keep us above ground longer. I think that's kind of one of the themes I've seen in this tournament with that Force Hook flag on, is when you know you're going to have to go down that hook route eventually, how long can you delay going down that hook route until it becomes the only thing available to you? And so finding those early key items can sort of mitigate the danger of that hook route a bit, just by virtue of getting you more levels, getting you more potential equipment, that sort of thing on the way down through. We're going to see Boney here going up to check the boss on Mount Hobbs.
Hobbs is a good thorough play. It's very easy to forget about Hobbs on this flag set. There's no character to pick up here, but it is a boss. And it might be a required boss. Not this time, though. It's Bahamut. I think Boney thought for a moment if he wanted to take that for experience, says, nah, I'm good, and resets out.
Definitely. Meanwhile, Leno deciding that they're going to go ahead and head up Mount Ordeals already. Skip Fabul, fading Fabul, always a popular play with that Cecil in the party, wanting to get him online as quickly as possible. Not really finding anything in these treasure chests on the way up, but this is a triple boss check that we're about to hit here, so very important.
Yeah, I like the Lenophis' play. I think Lenophis might be planning to try to fade Fabul, which is pretty popular on these flags with that forced hook, knowing that you can try to get one less dip into Fabul if Fabul doesn't have the hook. And I also like Lenophis' play. He has an Ogre Axe from Antlion Cave and this Twin Cast. Getting Cecil online sooner is just going to mean one extra party member that's going to be functional for him.
Definitely, and we're now in dueling boss fights on both sides. Leno in this D-Lunars fight at the first slot on Mount Ordeals, Boney at Leviathan here at Fabul. Neither a required boss, but D-Lunar's definitely a good one to have out of the way in one of these sort of easier spots. They can be quite tricky if they end up in the wrong location, so real good bonus there in terms of getting through this fight. We have plenty of ways of damaging them without triggering their counters between magic, Kane's jump. If you want to use Dark on Cecil for a laugh, you can. But on the whole, this is a pretty good boss to find here.
Yeah, unfortunately, we saw Lenophis charge Twin Cast, and the Twin stepped forward, did nothing, and stepped back. That meant that one or both of them was out of MP, and we saw Lenophis go into Palom's spell menu, saw the 10 MP, which actually is enough to do Flare, but they must have tried to do Comet. Wasn't really quite sure what to do. Maybe kind of paused in the menu, which is a good idea to do if you need to think for a moment. Realized Fire 1 is probably going to be good enough, charge that with Palom, and then he's going to get through this fight. But just a slight stall there, trying to cast Twin Cast. You do need to manage your MP a little bit with that.
Definitely, and that could be another little advantage to Boney's Stardust Rod. Finding the hook in Fabul, so fading Fabul is not a play you can make in this seed. You will be forced to go to Fabul eventually in order to get underground. I don't think that this will make a huge difference long term, because I think that both of our runners are probably going to be tempted to clear pretty much all of the overworld, and that just means that Leno does not save the time of not going to Fabul. But, it's annoying when you're trying to fade it and you have to go back anyways.
Yeah, it's unfortunate if he commits to that fade. That means he might even run down that Twin Heart before going to Fabul. I'm not sure that he'll do that, but yeah, it only ends up kind of biting you just from a routing efficiency perspective, because Lenophis basically flew over Fabul to get down towards Ordeals, just because Fabul's sort of along the way after going to Outline, and so you just kind of lose some like airship flying time, which doesn't sound like much, but when you add up all of these small moments of like flight time and menu time, etc., over the course of an entire seed, it can add up to like a minute or a couple minutes even, when you add all of those things together.
Definitely, and Leno is now going to know that this is not going to give him his hook, because this is their Val fight over on this side here. Not the best boss to find on the back attack spot on Mount Ordeals, but we do have ways of dealing with the Val here.
We have exactly one way, and it's called Kane. This spot features 5 evasive multipliers that we absolutely cannot pierce through with our party members at the moment, and she has good enough magic defense, if not immunity to magic, that Twin Cast would do nothing. So we're going to have to rely on Kane jumping. Val gets a punch out once she's out of the tornado form, and then the twins are going to have to deal their Twin Cast while she's out of tornado form. It's just a very frustrating fight for Lenophis right now. It's going to take time, and he's going to have to manage it well, because that tornado could come up once he tries to charge a Black Mage spell, and it's just going to eat at time from him.
Definitely, and it's kind of, a bit of a complicated situation, because there is some temptation when you see Val in these flags to say, maybe I don't need this boss fight here, because I know this isn't going to get me my underground access. I know that this is not really going to make that difference there. But it's Val on Mount Ordeals, and we have a Cecil. So you're kind of, in a way, stuck taking, just because of how strong Paladin Cecil is. So this is not a fight we can easily dodge.
Yeah, this is basically required. You do not want to take Dark Knight Cecil down the crowd. That would not spark joy. Thankfully, Kane is a rather fast anchor, and the spot is not very fast. So, and actually getting the slot is going to help this even more, keep her out of tornado form. So, I mean, we have time to deal with her, and I think Lenophis, actually, I'm positive Lenophis is going to get through this. It's just, this becomes like an efficiency moment of how long is it going to take me to get through this versus Boney. And if you can find ways, for instance, if you bluff with Palo and then cast Twin once Kane is landing from a jump, there are ways to really speed this fight up. However, I think we've done thousands of damage at this point, a little bit more, and he'll be through, or they'll be through.
Definitely. Meanwhile, over on Boney's side, into this D-Lunars fight, Boney is taking a different strategy than Leno did. He's just throwing Cure 2 potions at these D-Lunars here and attacking with Kane, aiming with Rosa, but just trying to get all that damage out through that undead vulnerability to healing here. Hitting for about 500 a pop, so going to be very good on the damage efficiency, but maybe a bit costly in terms of items. But Leno is through that Val fight and on their way into this third boss.
Yeah, I don't mind throwing the Cure 2s. That honestly does a good amount of damage. The spot is splitting, I want to say 3,000, maybe 4,000 hit points total. So the Cure 2s are doing a lot of work alone. That attack against a D-Learner, putting up the wall and they start bouncing viruses off themselves, got a little spooky there, but, Porum goes down. Unfortunate casualty, but Boney gets through that fight, no problem. Gonna have to contend with that Val, though he doesn't know it's coming just yet.
Definitely, and the reward for getting through that Val, as we just found out over on Leno's side, they pick up an elven bow from it, finding a purple robe. So this is one of the French vanilla Mylons, in this case Mylon Z here in this room. Gonna fall in basically 2 or 3 hits, and that'll be that. So nice, easy boss to cap this off, but none of the required bosses up here on Ordeals. All this is really getting us is that Cecil online.
Mylon Z got a little confused where the ravine is.
Yeah, I mean,
got a little lost along the way.
The ravine is technically outside at very least, so it's not like, when he's standing, say, at the Kaipo Inn at the package spot, and it's like, what ravine? It's a desert that's just flat out here for miles upon miles around. At least the ravine is right outside right now.
The ravine is a state of mind.
Exactly. Also want to preserve...
Mylon Z's speech falls a bit flat here. Thank you.
I was about to say, I want to preserve that one for the YouTube VOD as well. Thank you, Escript.
Also, hi, YouTube.
We know it's French vanilla in a way.
It was French vanilla in a way, yeah. I was going to say, we have a rather dedicated group of folks that watch on YouTube. We super appreciate you.
Absolutely. And thank you for all of your support, as it looks like Leno is going to be heading to their next check. Let's see where they end up going. Are they heading Are they heading to Castle Eblin to do a bit of looting now that they just have this Cecil online? Are they going to try and take the trap chests here?
Yeah, here's the fun magical part. We have Cecil, we have Castle Eblin, we have something like an 80% chance out of all 3 boxes to hit either an Excalibur or a Crystal Sword. Lenophis says, I want that sword as soon as possible. Now, one thing that he's going to have to contend with, is where, how they're going to take on these traps. Cecil is a good cover tank, but only level 1 at the moment, not in the back row. We'll see if Lenophis wants to change up their party ordering here, maybe give him some defensive gear, set him up with a weapon of some sort, actually just setting up a back row glitch. I kind of like Boney's position more coming into Eblin, because Boney will be able to take the hovercraft into Cave Eblin for a moment and look for hourglasses or coffins, buy a few of those, and then come back and kind of make these traps a bit quicker. But we'll see what Lenophis wants to do. We found the Mad Ogres, and Kane does have an Ogre Axe on, which is very effective against these, so I think this is a really good first trap for him to find.
Definitely. I mean, these trap chests can be no joke if you're taking them too early. We're even seeing the life potions coming out now onto these Mad Ogres just to squeeze as much EXP out of these trap chests as possible. It looks like the plan is going to be casting stock with Palom here and just hoping it lands. Only lands on the back Mad Ogre here, but taking out even just an auto attack or two for just a couple rounds can make the difference here. So very good thought there on that particular strategy.
Yeah, I want to say you can get Quake on Palom if you life glitch every Mad Ogre and life glitch both of the cats. And if you don't get to Quake, you get very close to it. And Quake being, really, really good for the hook route. Unfortunately, the Ogre's sort of sniper taking out both of these twins here. At least the back one should still be stopped. We'll be able to take that one out.
Definitely. And I think the other thing worth looking at in this particular case is I don't feel like you care as much about the XP on the Porum at this point. I'm not sure if that Porum is your endgame strategy. If you're looking at maybe just having a dedicated anchor later on, Porum's already kind of got a few levels. There's that Excalibur.
Now, the question in my mind is Lenophis going to want more, or are we going to take that stick and run?
I would take the stick and run, personally.
I would also take the stick and run, but you know what? Greed is good. Greed just kind of costs a little bit of time, and we're going back in. I mean, we could find a Crystal Sword, we could find an Avenger, we could find more weaponry, something better for Kane, we can find more armor, like power shirts and whatnot. Like, there is more to be had here. There's a life staff just sitting in a box there, like... This castle still has value. There's that Stardust Rod from Lenophis also, so he's going to have that. And then here is probably my least favorite trap in this castle, the Stalemen and Skulls. Have a Stardust item that likely is not enough to kill all the skulls. So going to have to deal with all these punches and kind of a little bit of time here. Stardust Rod plus the Stardust item will do it though. And then like one punch, unfortunately Kane goes down. I was gonna say one punch with the Ogre Axe against that back Staleman. Staleman is like the worst encounter in the game, by the way, early game. It's just so rude. All it does is punch you and put you to sleep. Oh, Palom goes down. That is a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, this is kind of going in some of the worst ways it possibly could for Leno at this point in time. We do have that save outside for them, so they won't really lose a ton of time from this. They just need to pick up that life staff and the Stardust Rod again. Boney, meanwhile, going and doing a little bit of shopping in Mysidia, and that's worth noting because he has picked up some illusions as well. So that value of Blink out of Porum and Rosa is a little bit reduced. We do have access to that no matter what, and he's going to continue with the boss checks heading into Baron Inn.
Yeah, and as Chad is pointing out, we're anchored with Kane here, by the way, against these trap chests. These traps, these encounters, enemy encounters, are actually rather fast, and you're better served with a slow character or an anchor, which is something I also was going to bring up. Earlier in this seed, I said that Boney with the Stardust Rod had incentive to keep Porum down as an anchor, as she is a perfectly good anchor, as we were positing earlier about whether you want twin cast versus, having access to Rosa. Neither of our runners really have a dedicated anchor at this point and are about to go down a hook route that could be rather dangerous if we don't swap out or find a curse ring.
Definitely. I think we'll probably see the swap out there. We've got a very good kind of pair of anchor candidates, depending on whether or not we find a curse ring.
We see the Staleman doing its worst job of putting people to sleep. Cecil and Porum are basically out for this entire run now. I mean, by the time they'd wake up, we're dead. So Rosa by herself gonna have to manage. Realizes that Porum might die, I believe, threw that life potion. Oh no, threw it at Cecil. Yeah, kind of recovering the tempo from this fight. That Rosa looks very safe with whatever she's wearing, maybe a wizard gear of some sort, but yeah, this is dangerous. What do we do now? Lenophis is kind of pausing to figure it out. This is the problem with some of these traps, as they're kind of learning firsthand.
I would consider tossing out the vampires at the Staleman. I think it should do a good decent amount of damage, unless I'm misremembering, and their resistance is against the vampire as well, while also keeping that Rosa alive just enough to get him knocked out of the fight, so that way we're not having problems there.
Vampire would be great, especially since I think that Staleman had taken a decent amount of damage already, but unfortunately takes the wipe, says, you know what, I'm going right back in. Castle Upland, you do not phase me. I'm still going.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, over on Boney's side, we do have this Kainatsu, the first boss that is required that we're going to be getting knocked out. Unfortunately, you may have noticed this is Boney's second time through this Kainatsu fight, because there's a plague in that second spot. And plague is not the most pleasant boss in this location, while we still don't have the damage to just blow him up, and we maybe are, not quite prepared for him. But now that we're prepared for him, should be a pretty easy fight.
Yeah, Plague early game, when you're fast anchored, is actually plays against you for a couple of reasons. The count goes down faster, and also with a fast anchor, you don't really get the nice trick of being able to make Plague relative agility 1, which is like agility black magic. But basically, when you have a very slow anchor and a Plague, if you start taking a lot of actions or have like a couple Zerks going off, you can utilize this trick of not really having to worry about count. But early game, you have to play Plague's game honestly and start, kill somebody so that, Plague will redo this count. And Rosa might not even, party members start dying before this extra count can come out. Kane, thankfully, jumping at the start of this fight, also really saving him time. It just, the fight must have just gotten away from him because that count goes so quickly.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that count basically tick down to before the menu even comes up for Rose's turn here. Yep. To give you an idea of how quickly it's ticking down for Boney at the moment. Gonna be able to get that Palom back up and continue despite stabilized. I think he's probably through at this point.
Yeah, the back attack of Ordeals is probably the worst spot in the game for Plague to show up. Certainly my least favorite, for basically the same reason as this fight.
Only rewarded with a Luca key for it. Well, a Luca key and the first boss kill of this particular set of objectives. So not really what we're looking for in terms of key items. A Luca key, especially in these flags where we have the work glitch on the Blue Moon side, does basically just give you a boss check that you have to walk a long distance to look at. But it's still better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, and it gives you peace of mind if you are, getting towards the end of a seed and are looking for maybe one of two bosses and don't have much left to do. At least having the Luca key just eliminates one of those out-of-the-way boss locations, so I don't mind seeing it.
Yeah, especially with only that pan really left for those underground checks, we're kind of hitting a spot where it's feasible that you could go underground, and maybe consider, if you're able to take on those Feymarch bosses, clearing everything underground before coming back up and being done with the underground.
Yeah,
entirely.
It feels real nice. It feels real nice when you get to do that, for sure. But speaking of being thorough, Boney being thorough above ground, just checking out the last of these bosses, going back to that Odin for revenge under the waterfall. Gonna set up, hopefully he anchors with somebody slower, but actually even if he doesn't, really all he's going to need to do is charge a Lit 2, maybe like a punch from someone. But with that Stardust Rod, I think the Lit 2 might one-shot kind of get through. Meanwhile, Lenophis says, I want revenge. Stammen's skull. Fool me once. Shame on you. Second time through, something rhymes. I didn't do it, but we're gonna kill this trap.
Absolutely, just need to get through the actual stalemate at this point. Unfortunately, putting Cecil to sleep. Cecil, with that Excalibur, someone you want swinging their weapon at this point in time, but an Ogre Axe is fine too, and it's over.
Yeah, Ogre Axe kind of acting like an Excal in this one fight. Gets through. Revenge taken. Palm getting towed, not Quake, but we did get Berserk on that Porum, I believe. And gets Stardust number 2 for his trouble. I think he just said, I don't want it. I think they said I just said, I don't want it. I don't blame them.
Yeah, unfortunately, no value for second Stardust Rod here over on Lenophis' side, so going to be heading back out, presumably dropping another save, or I believe actually they might have done that third trap chest. I might have missed what that was, but I don't think it was anything particularly important at this point in time. And out there, going to be heading over to take on this Kinatsu and Plague, and I gotta think they're a little bit better set up for knocking that Plague out quickly and might have an easier time getting through it first time.
Yeah, Boney now stepping in, wants to take on traps himself, finds the Black Cat Lamia. Also, I believe didn't step into Eblin first, but that's okay. Cecil has a little bit more experience. His party in general has more experience because of just doing a bit more of the overworld. Now, you should have an easier time with these traps.
Yeah, definitely. And here's the real question, he's landing at Castle Eblin. We still have that Twin Harp available to us. Is he going to head up and check that Twin Harp before heading underground? Or is he just saying, all right, I think I'm good to head underground. I'm going to go for it. That is a real big question here, because there's an argument to be made to take out everything you can on the overworld first, but there's also an argument to be made that you can also just not and just get underground. Twin Heart's a long check. It's only one boss. It's only one key item check. You might as well get down there and actually get going to the next big widening of the seed, so to speak.
I'm a big fan of just going underground, and here's why. That Twin Harp represents one pretty out-of-the-way check that can lead towards some good progress. Also, obviously, very good music for us. However, that hook represents numerous checks underground and is a check that you have to do. There's no chance at like a Magma Key out of Twin Harp. There is a chance, however, at Darkness. But without Atella in the seed, there isn't like a great grind available from getting that Darkness Crystal. So I really love fading that Twin Harp and putting it off for later until maybe you go underground, you set up Sheila 1, now everybody's at 1 hit points, and then you go up, you do the turn in Sheila 1, and then everybody at 1 hit point can do the Twin Harp check, and Palom could like virus the entire party and kind of skip so much of the cutscene that you get with the Dark Elf where you have to kind of sit there and take it. So I think there's it's more efficient to do it later, and I like fading it because it's just the value it represents for the time spent. Though if you want to do it, it is a very reasonable gamble if you like gambling.
Definitely. I think the next question in that particular instance then is, if you're Lenophis, you do not have that hook yet from the Fabul check. Do you continue to commit to fading Fabul? Or do you consider trying and going for that Twin Harp, thinking, you know what, this could be my underground access technically, it's still in logic. Or in this case, they're just going to go ahead and head over and say, you know what, I put off a bowl too long.
I think I would also check Fabul defense. It's nice to be able to fade Fabul to be able to get underground, but Fabul versus Twin Harp, I think I'd rather go towards Fabul. It's also just sort of flight time wise, it was just a little bit closer for Lenophis, so good for us to see them doing this, since we know this leads to underground access, even though Lenophis doesn't.
Absolutely. Another thing that's sort of standing out to me that makes me think that hook route might be a good decision too is there's a lot of bosses with those sort of type weaknesses, and we have a pretty decent amount of gear for exploiting that. We have that Ogre Axe, we have that Mute Knife as well. Mute Knives, I mean, I feel like to me, one of the tales of Adamant Cup was sort of Mute Knives won more games than Crystal Swords did early on. So it's going to be interesting to see if we have anything where we can leverage that here against. If not, I feel like we still have enough power to get through anyways, but that's another sort of thing where there's a lot of bosses we can just knock out.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the more interesting things about Free Enterprise to me in general, honestly, because we are basically a boss scavenger hunt, and many of the bosses have these various really interesting weaknesses. No, a Mute Dagger, unfortunately, it's really Edge's best weapon for exploiting the mage weakness. Kane wearing a Mute Dagger it's a little sad. It's a little sad. It's functional. We'd rather have a rune axe, but we'll take what we can get, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Either way, we can be reasonably certain that Kane's going to be doing damage. That is a rune ring. I saw the word rune and I was like, what is that symbol? I need to parse this very quickly, but that is a rune ring.
I almost willed it into existence. Almost. Look, you said Edge and we got an Edward. I said rune axe and we got a rune ring.
Exactly. That's just how it works. And it does look like Boney is at very least going to be heading to these shops. Leno now has that hook in hand. They're going to be heading up Mount Hobbs and find this Bahamut, presumably reset out of it immediately. So I think we're going to see our hook route very soon, possibly on both sides.
Yeah, we're going to see our hook route soon, and I agree. I think we're going to see essentially dueling hook routes. Boney just getting down there a little bit earlier. Taking a moment, though, to loot down here. We'll see if Lenophis is interested in looting Cave Eblin also. On my mind is, like, I've got an X-Cal, I've got a Stardust Rod. For one of these runners, I've got a Power Shirt. Coffins are in the shop here. I'm really ready to go. We've got a lot of power on these teams so far.
Definitely. I think the real question is, do we have, say, Quake on Palom, and Palom is close enough to Quake where those trap chests might get just enough XP. We do have that Ogre Axe on that Kane, who can just knock out both the Staleman and the Mad Ogres quite easily. I'm not sure if that would be enough experience. Maybe with a life pot or two thrown out to take advantage of that life glitch, it might be. But that could be something worth noting too, is, you don't check for the loot, but you check just to get that trap chest in order to get that last bit of XP.
Yeah, Lenophis, I know for sure their Palom is sitting on Toad, which means that he's level 22, excuse me. Boney, I'm not exactly sure. Boney, I think, got a little bit more experience throughout. I felt like, well, Boney also did all three of those traps. They're probably both very close to Quake, but neither has it. If it were me, I'd want to see who this hook route boss is. If I see Maga Sisters, if I see, I'm thinking of other multi-part bosses. I guess if I see Baigan, I'm very interested in Quake because of that AoE access. Otherwise, having access to Berserk and the illusions for Boney, actually, can do a lot of the work as far as damage and safety goes without necessarily needing the trap. But as we're looting along here, we're going to find the two Stalemen, probably. Yeah, Boney hits it right now. So again, this encounter is just really rude, but we get through it. That might be enough alone to get Quake on Palom.
Boney did not do all three of those trap chests. Boney bought a light sword in the shop, meaning that Boney did not hit the X-Cal that's sitting in Castle Eblin. And that could be a huge difference.
We saw him do, yeah, at least two of those traps, I felt. He did the Mad Cat, he did the Cat Lamias, and he did the Staleman Skulls. Oh, must not have hit on either of them and said, okay, the odds on the third are kind of not great anymore, so I'm out. That's unfortunate if so. Crystal Ring's a nice pickup from this chest.
Seeing this seed right now is about seeing random words pop up that would be relevant and then seeing the wrong icon. And that is a blue robe on the hook route.
By the way, so that was Quake for Boney. That I suspect was Quake for Lenophis too. I wasn't quite paying attention to that one. But yeah, that blue robe, that's spooky.
If we don't have Quake, we want Quake at this point in time, just on the off chance that is the alt gauntlet. Either way, we know that it is going to be our third boss because we have both the Water Hag and the Alt Gauntlet required. So definitely a good thing, question mark, to see on both runners' sides. At least you know it's a boss hunt boss. You're just hoping that it is one over the other quite a bit at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, hear me out. I want that to be the Alt Gauntlet. And I want it to be the Alt Gauntlet because that means I don't have to find the Alt Gauntlet somewhere else.
And I want it to be the Water Hag because I want that Alt Gauntlet to be at the Masamune altar or somewhere like that.
Yes. Okay, as a runner, I want it here. As a commentator and a viewer, absolutely this needs to be Water Hag. Our restreamer Scala Kitty willing into existence the double blue robe hook route. The worst hook route probably would be the Alt Gauntlet into the Water Hag. Just turning that that quote-unquote freebie spot of the King Queen Eblin into very much not free. And we're about to find out what it is. Lenophis stepping in. It's DKC. This is a little spooky. This does a lot of damage. Cecil is healthy, but we don't have an anchor. This spot is extraordinarily fast, by the way. It has a speed of something like 38, which is outrageous for this point in the game. Lenophis dies before being able to get into a menu. That is a problem.
Yep, checking agility now, knowing that they need to swap someone in to actually anchor their team as best as they can. Going to swap Palom to the center slot now, drop that battle speed down, and just try and get through. At this point in time, you gotta just chuck potions at Cecil and kind of pray your way through. So, we'll see.
I'm very concerned. Both runners were given very strong early, 5 strong early party members and had a lot of incentive to use that Porum because of Twin Cast. And I feel we're a bit, I would say, baited into kind of running without an anchor here. Now, Palom is, rather slow, and Cecil turns out to be fast enough. With some good rolls, this might be good enough. No, take 600. Now that Cecil is dead. This is a huge problem.
We need a better heal than a Cure 2 potion. I'm not sure if we found like an elixir to anywhere. Worst comes to worst, there are elixirs for sale back at the Eblin shop, but you do not want to go back that far. But if we have a better source of healing here, which it does not look like we do, that changes things. Maybe even worth popping a siren or two just to get the HP to live through the spot.
I was going to say, if they're paying attention, they know that elixir is for sale. Now with Kane and Cecil, you should be able to, maybe, it's just so difficult now because of this anchoring setup. Cecil in the top slot, Kane the bottom slot, because they're the 2 fastest party members, maybe even swap those, to get both Cecil and Kane to throw Cure 2s out, which is what we're going to see here. But yeah, Kane dropping before there's even a chance to do it. We really need both of those party members to be able to throw out curatives for one of these party members to survive. Lenophis is going to give this another shot. If Kane doesn't get this off at like battle speed 6, I hope he'll transition to, tries to running away, not really doing anything without being in a menu, unfortunately. We're in trouble. I think Lenophis is going to need to either, Boney says, I need to take out an encounter. And Lenophis also is going to have to do something to swap out anchors. I think, honestly, the smartest thing at this point to do, I know it feels horrible, but I think the smartest thing to do is to leave, grab a proper anchor, and come back.
I would tend to agree, and it looks like that's going to be Leno's strategy here. The big question is are these couple of encounters that we have potentially available to Boney here with those sirens going to make up enough health of a difference to allow him to not run back? If not, I feel like this is not, 100% wasted time, but a bit more inefficient of time. It looks like Leno might just be doing the XP out of this Mad Ogre chest, though.
Yeah, I mean, the experience play is tricky for me because maybe if Porum doesn't get extra experience, we can start getting agility on everybody else, but really you'd probably want it to be Palom instead, because Palom is the slowest party member now at this point. You can get enough health. It will just take some time. You can get enough health to just survive the dark waves outright. You can also try to get just enough agility so that, both Cecil and Kane get to throw. There's a couple other things that they can do. I think Lenophis was at battle speed 4 and not 6 as far as throwing out the Kiratusco in the order that he wanted it. I think there's also that crystal ring that they found. That is a piece of agility manipulation that if you know the system very well or are willing to test it out on the fly, you can start putting that crystal ring on different party members and see how it plays with your agility and your party ordering and trying to get to this fight. But as I'm talking all of this out, it's basically puzzling through a situation you don't necessarily have an answer for versus just leaving and going for the answer that you know exists. And that's a very difficult decision to make.
I feel like there's so much pressure in any given randomizer to get through a check once you're there, because you don't want to be the person who has to run back, because that's always going to be what feels like wasted time, even though it's not technically wasted time in the same way, but it always feels like time that you would rather just be trying to get through the boss. So I know the pressure is to just keep going, and it does look like Leno is going to do a full back out here. Might just go grab an anchor out of the Tower of Wishes, or might just grab an elixir or two out of the Evelyn shops. We'll see what their answer is to this fight.
Absolutely, and I think you're absolutely right about that. There's a lot of pressure to get through that quickly. Both of these runners, I think, are going to be feeling not so great at this point, because you really don't know what your opponent is doing. It's very easy to think like, okay, I'm in this situation. I didn't grab an anchor. I bet my opponent did. I bet my opponent is getting through this right now. And you kind of go through these like cycles in your head. It's very easy to get caught up under these pressurized situations of like, well, now I really feel behind. Neither of these runners are really going to realize that the other kind of did the exact same thing and are in the same exact situation. Though you might be able to guess your opponent's having trouble too, but you never really know. But yeah, I just think the really seasoned response to me is, if I don't know the answer, I'd rather go for the answer that I do know.
Absolutely, it's like that. It's like that skeleton meme. It's if it doesn't work, hit the bricks. Real winners quit. That sort of thing. That's what we need to be doing right now. Just head out and come back later. This is the Too Fancy Weed store, the cops if you're quick. You need to get out of here. And it looks like Leno's going to be going for heart and just try and get more experience as well as their way around this.
That is one of my favorite memes, by the way. And we have one. I think Neon Gray made one for us for exactly the hook route, by the way. Or something like that. Or maybe it was like D Machine Grinds or something. I'm forgetting, but it's fabulous.
Well, we're about to see what this difference does in terms of our two runners here. Boney, looking like he's heading back up the tower, is not going to make this full walkout, is going to try this DKC again. Leno backing out and using this, and there is the wonderful Neon Gray version. Shoutouts to them for being an absolutely wonderful person with an excellent taste in humor and making that for us.
I love that you brought this up. There it is. Just walk out. You can leave. Sealed Cave, Golbez, Cutscenes, Antlion, The Moon, Long Key Item Chains, D-Machine Grin, Too Expensive Item Shop, Demist at Leviathan, if you're lucky, Bad Character Pickups. If it sucks, hit the bricks. Real winners quit. You can leave.
Exactly. You can leave anytime you like. It's just, it feels so bad leaving when you're at a check.
It's such a hard choice to make. It is such a hard choice to make.
That being said, it is music time. Leno is at this heart check, so enjoy, everyone. It is time for the memes to continue.
We had hit to bricks, now we have hit to harp.
So that is a required boss down here at the Twin Heart. Leno's going to be very happy with that. That is going to be that once they're through the hook route, guaranteed 4 out of these 7 bosses completed. Not getting a key item for it, but either way, still value. Meanwhile, over on Boney's side, Boney is committing very hard to this grind right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, the next attempt through did not work out. Same problem happened. Kane dropping before he can give that final cure 2 to Cecil. Other things that Boney can try, we could put Kane up top and Cecil at the bottom and jump with Kane. Give Cecil a cure 2, and Kane can jump 1 or maybe even 2 of those waves. Just depending on how the agility kind of works out. But it's, yeah, we're kind of like learning on the fly how to handle this. And the more experience is certainly going to be better as far as the hit point situation goes, but yeah, this is pretty concerning.
Definitely. And there's also just the agility situation. Each battle that Palom is up in that center slot, Palom is getting faster. A fast anchor at this spot is not really what you want to get through. I mean, eventually the health will make it not make as much of a difference, but it's possible. Meanwhile, I'm seeing a Zot 1 check over on the other side here.
This to me says Lenophis is like, I don't know what to do. Do anything. Do literally anything except that hook route. Whatever it is I can find, I will go do it. It involved the Twin Harp, which was a check that ended up having great value. Paladin boss, great. Poison Axe, not so much. But now, you know, it's like, I'm just going to run up here while I'm trying to think of what to do. Finds karate. And also might be feeling like I feel really pretty far behind. Now, they're going to take on this fight. And it's actually free because of the script, though I think Excal is just going to cut karate to pieces anyways. We're doing this because we're going to be able to peek the Dwarf 2 boss by going through with this.
Absolutely. We'll know who the Dwarf 2 boss is. We'll get that little tiny bit more XP. I think also this is probably a play in their case of thinking, you know what, if I'm going to do this Twin Harp check, I need to make sure I'm maximizing the value of routing that way regardless. And in that case, you know, you might as well walk up Zot 1 because then you just fade the Earth Crystal until late because you may not know who that second boss is, but you've already found one that your opponent might not find for quite a while, and it looks like they're not going to bother checking.
Step in. Okay, might not realize that you can do that. Step in and see that boss, or might be thinking it's not really very important since you're very likely to do dwarf because of the warp glitch, anyways. But that was a play for that boss, and then you know you get the experience on top of it. And Lenophis probably feeling pretty desperate for experience at the moment. Now, I will say, if one of our runners had left immediately, swapped anchors and come back, they probably would be either here or through the DKC at this point, which does make, yeah, well, kind of lends back to what I was saying earlier, but you just, you know, you don't know what your opponent is doing. You have to make these decisions very quickly in pressurized situations. Lenophis is going to go back down, does not go and swap out anchors. We have a Sid and we have Edward both sitting in Mysidia. Porn would be a pretty good swap out, I would say, with this party. Gonna go back down. Passing by the elixir shop too, that's also another answer. And Boney gets through. Well done. Brute forced his way through.
Absolutely. We will see what this blue robe is. Please go save before checking.
Save. Okay.
I would be very tempted to just go through it anyways,
Me too.
because I don't think the gauntlet is going to pose that much of a problem with this party, and you get the full heal, but also just please just save.
That gauntlet has ways of getting under you and making you start lose party members. We saw some of the random encounters Boney took were giving him a little bit of problems, and you have to do 5 of those in a row, basically, if it's the alt gauntlet. However, it is just water hog. Great for us. Probably not super great for our runners. That means the alt gauntlet is looming at probably a worse location.
Probably a worse location. That kind of does lead to the question of like, where are the best places for that gauntlet to be? Honestly, probably Senator Crocodile making an appearance is my pick for the best remaining spot for that gauntlet. Yep. So hopefully not there for our viewing pleasure at this point in time. But either way, Boney's going to be up to his 3rd boss. Leno will be up to their 4th once they get through. We'll see how they manage this DKC fight, as Boney is going to be heading underground through this hook route at about the 58-minute mark.
Yeah, Boney persevering, saying, I'm just going to get all the experience and brute force my way through this fight, able to finally get through that DKC. Very well done by him, and is through one of the worst hook routes, given the party's composition I've seen in some time, possibly even in this tournament. Very, very, very well done. And
that's a guard sprite. Tempting.
Yeah, very tempting. Guards or Kaipo soldiers. We do have the tower key. It's a very, very reasonable play, and we've got those coffins from Cave Eblin. It's pretty reasonable to just drop the airship immediately after getting out of the tower here.
100%. I think if I were in Boney's shoes, I would be like, you know what? This tower, I'm taking care of this right now. It's 2 key item checks. It's a bunch of free, well, basically 2 free bosses. The only thing that could possibly trip you up is if it's exactly Wyvern in that super cannon room and he somehow gets his mega nuke off before you can do anything. But Boney is going to go ahead and head towards Dwarf Castle instead. At very least get the heal from this pot.
And Lenophis, again, with the extra hit points on Cecil, with those levels, also gets through that DKC. Very well done by Lenophis. Likely going to go save and then take on his also Water Hag and be right behind Boney. And yeah, to let chat know, by the way, and YouTube viewers about that DKC fight, there was some chat about, maybe trying to work with Kane's jump. Kane's jump is, it's good. There's a couple problems with it. It has a surprisingly long delay on it. Though with a fast anchor, that delay is less of an issue. So it might have been viable. It's hard for me to say because it's kind of an unfamiliar agility situation. So you can kind of try to jump over some of those waves. And then also the jump landing, it's only the fight command itself that triggers DKC's script that says, you can't fight right now. So the jump itself would not trigger that, or the damage from the jump. So jump is a viable way through DKC, depending on how you can maneuver it.
Definitely. And Leno did not bother saving, which does not matter at this point in time, because again, this is the Water Hag. That's going to be boss number 4 for them. Meanwhile, over on Boney's side, there is a D-Mist here in slot 1 of Dwarf Castle.
I love the celebration from Rosa, by the way. Lenophis getting through that. Very well done. And yeah, D-Mist. We call this spot Mini Ogopogo, by the way. It punch, it cast. And D-Mist does not care about your X-Cal having the Holy Resistance, or I'm taking a good 400 something damage. Now, given that DKC required a good infusion of levels, we've got 2 white mages. We're gonna get through this. It's just D-Mist is this is kind of a rude boss here.
Definitely. And really, these runners are very, very close at this point in time. We're seeing Leno about 2.5 minutes behind getting through this hook route. That's definitely ground that can easily be made up in his underground checks, especially if, for example, Boney has gone over here to Dwarf Castle first. If Leno goes up and does this, then maybe we hit something out of this. Maybe there's a boss in the super cannon room. Maybe there's a key item that we want to have, like Darkness Crystal. That could be a big game changer. Now that we're seeing this divergence, those 2 minutes kind of effectively, it's not like they don't matter, but they don't matter.
Yeah, and I mean, the 2 minutes also, honestly, for Lenophis, so after DKC became a problem, our runners took 2 different paths through that DKC, essentially. Both chose the experience route for hit points, but Lenophis left, ran to Twin Harp, found the Pale Dim there, which is a required boss that Boney doesn't have behind that Twin Harp, meaning that Lenophis is kind of ahead on boss checks, and so that, and Twin Harp certainly takes more than a couple minutes, so I would actually say Lenophis is quote-unquote ahead at the moment. But again, for the reason that you just said, given routing divergence, Lenophis ran up the tower immediately now. The choices that we're making now are going to determine, where our runners are at. So it's very hard to say. It's basically neck and neck at this point, but Boney has not gone to that Twin Harp and might fade it for a long time. Who knows?
I think the thing that would most incentivize Boney to head over to that Twin Harp is if we see an Earth Crystal soon. Because Boney also does not have knowledge of those 2 bosses on Zot. Leno knows that the karate is up in that first spot on Zot, but for Boney, that then becomes a spot where you can land and instantly check 3 bosses with 2 key items for it. It is a bit slow, but at that point in time, you're able to efficiently route it together, especially if you have like the Baron key, because then that drops you off there and it's doubly good. So that might play into it. Meanwhile, Leno finding the officer-soldier fight here on top of Lower Babel. That is, of course, a free fight with this coffin, a pretty decent chunk of XP if we get a life glitch off on this officer, although the spot does not have the most XP, so it won't make a huge difference, but a very free boss.
Yeah, and if you happen to be newer to Free Enterprise, first of all, hi, welcome, love to have you. Second of all, yeah, throwing a life potion at a dying enemy is a weird quirk in this game. You get to throw a life potion at a dying enemy, and it revives them, but they come back with 0 hit points because of a bug. And the game counts you as having killed that enemy twice. Therefore, we call it the life glitch. And the officer in the back has the chunk of experience out of that particular boss formation.
Well, the double spear special from Dwarf Castle here, the warp glitch that puts us in a sealed cave at the bottom of Luca, because the sealed cave, fun fact, the end of it, I believe, is actually the exact same room as the back of Dwarf Castle.
Yes.
So you can just warp back to it and grab the key item. That ended up being a Dragoon Spear. Then we have a White Spear as Luca's necklace today. Don't ask us how that works. That sounds deeply uncomfortable. The real benefit that Boney's getting here is the Cursed Ring, but the benefit Leno's getting, there is boss number 5 Elements here in the Super Cannon Room.
Oh, is that a Cursed Ring? Was it in the shop in Dwarf Castle?
It sure was.
That's huge. That's huge. We don't have a dedicated anchor for this team. Palom absolutely serves as a good enough anchor. Palom is honestly rather slow as a mage, but being able to dedicate anybody he wants essentially as an anchor, just going to make so many fights going forward easier, going to make Zeromus easier. And also we've got a psychology professor. Thank you, Boney. That is our job, Dwarf Chuck.
I wonder what a psychology professor is doing wandering around a random warehouse in the back of a town at this point in time. Is this like some
research
sort of research thing on, the other dwarf that is moving boxes around? What's going on here? Boney is going to be heading back to this tower now, is going to be grabbing that 4th, in his case, boss check from that Super Cannon room. Leno on their way out, so we'll see where they go from here. Presumably they'll just be trading places. That would be my guess.
Maybe that psychology professor hit the bricks.
Exactly, difficult semester, you can just leave.
You can just leave, just walk out. It's easy.
I know my psychology professor wanted to, having me in their class. So I was a terrible student, so.
Just a sad Ruby for that tower check. Tower looking like it didn't have value this time around. However, Boney's going to end up doing it. There's a tower key in the seed, so you don't feel too bad because you're pretty sure your opponent's going to do it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Leno is going to be checking these shops first. So they will find that cursed ring before going in here, should they choose to pick it up. Sort of
so
taking a step away and then realizing, oh, wait. Yeah, that might make a difference in this fight too, because being able to sort of slow down if you wish, I believe it's that first spot you want to be anchored for, and that first spot is the one that is going to cause you problems here. So potentially a very good thing.
Yeah, it's the reverse for this one, which is like it doesn't follow the rule of the other spots when you're kind of anchoring kind of above and below ground. You want to be fast anchored here. The dolls are very slow, and then the Golbez spot is faster, but tends to be weaker. It does put you in an odd situation sometimes, because if you have a fast anchor and then the Golbez spot is Wyvern exactly, sometimes you just get Mega Nuked before you can do anything. So like sometimes I honestly still end up being with the slow anchor going into the spot anyways, if I feel I'm strong enough, but having the Cursed Ring in general is just going to be good, because again, we don't really have a dedicated anchor on these teams, and now we can make anybody that we want that dedicated anchor, who I think at the very end of the seed is going to be Palom, if I had to guess.
I would tend to agree as well. I think that Cecil and Kane are going to be doing enough damage once they're berserked up to just take care of the Z fight basically in its entirety. You know, if Porum stays up, great. If not, Rosa, the sort of power thruple kind of strat will just get you through that no matter what. So that's probably what we're looking at. Although there is one thing worth noting, we have not seen above ground yet. We still have 3 boss checks in this underground available to us. And we have 5 out of 7 bosses on Leno's side. There is still a possibility that we go into that Z fight at quite low levels in the end, and that might change things a little bit. And that might sort of be a, do you try and find a grind, or do you just try and make do at the lower levels?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to depend on our runner's comfort level with these fights. I think the route that you can go is low-level Zerker strats. You're leaning on Cecil for all of the damage, most of the damage anyways, and then you're nerfing Big Bangs in order for one of either of your white mages to survive. And because you've got the 2 white mages, it's pretty safe to do that. So we'll see if you do have to be comfortable nerfing Big Bangs though. So and I'm not really sure really with any runners, like I wasn't comfortable nerfing Big Bangs for actually an honestly very long time, just because the timing can be a bit tricky. If that's not a way that they want to go, yeah, you can also try to take a grind. I don't know if we've seen Sirens. I don't think we have yet, but even without 10 key items, you can take on some Sirens. Yeah, there are options. We'll see where they want to go, of course, with those.
Is this the mythical seed where door grind might be on the table here?
It could be. It could be. Well, door grind's a little tricky because you want wall on your white mage, and by the time you have wall, you're pretty close to Tier 4, which puts you in those low-level Zerker strats. But if you want all the experience, you really kind of need 10 key items to make the doors worth it, I would say. But I mean, if we see it, I'd be very happy, because it's a very fun grind to see. Don't see it very often.
I love those sorts of unconventional grinds like that, but definitely a difficult setup either way. It's worth noting that through Dwarf Castle now, we have sort of the debatable best Kane weapons at this point in time. I know Defense Sword gets thrown in as sort of like the big 3 alongside that White Spear and that Dragoon Lance here. And we have an Excal on that Cecil on Leno's side, Light Sword on Boney's side, which while not quite as good by any stretch of the imagination, still a pretty strong weapon in that case. We've got pretty strong Berserkers at this point in time in the seed.
Absolutely. Boney going to be very happy with that Dragoon Spear. Does not know where Pale Dim is. Dragoon Spear, very effective against that Pale Dim. And then also it enables 2 grinds to just go quicker. So either the eggs from Sirens or the gold dragons up in the LST. Both of them dragons ultimately, and very, very weak to that Dragoon Spear. And there's a Baron Key and that Famearch freebie. We suddenly have a lot of bosses available to us. Now that Baigan spot is a evil wall, so we know it's not one of our required bosses, but there are still 2 other bosses at Baron that could potentially lead to go mode, and then also Sirens here in the Famearch for Boney.
Absolutely. That is pretty big, because the likelihood of this not being a darkness is not required seed, outside of the fact that we don't actually have access to get to Zeromus yet. We need either darkness or a pass regardless. It's looking more and more potential. There is a Octoman that we need and a Sparkle that we do not. Boney does not know that's a Wyvern. That's doable, but
we're gonna hit the bricks.
100%. But that is Octoman. That's going to be boss number 6 for Leno.
Yeah, Boney Boney fully says hit the bricks. See myself out. I'll come back later. Octomam, probably the best punchy boss to find there just because you can slow it down, but it's still a nasty punchy boss. Boney, uncertain if he can get through that fight, says, I'll just leave and grind and then maybe come back to it in a moment. And I certainly don't blame him.
Absolutely not. This is the real big question, though, is when we only have that Alt Gauntlet and that Golbez left on the table, we have a Baron key, and who knows what's going to drop from this Octomam once we get through, or if either of our runners will decide, you know what, I'm okay dropping some Star Veils to get through this Wyvern and going to try and push through that. That is ever increasing the possibility that this is, while not quite a jet seed, a moonless seed, which is a little bit intimidating at this point, I feel.
Absolutely. The only punishment from fading Wyvern, I feel, is if Wyvern has exactly darkness, or somehow has, it'd have to be a strange situation of like, has the Earth Crystal and the like Zot 2 and the package have our last two bosses, and you know Zot gives the package. So there are a lot of worlds where this Wyvern isn't hard required, so I really don't blame fading it. But yeah, Lenophis stepping in, sees the Octomam and the Sparkle, goes, gonna go save, and probably prep to take that Octomam if I had to guess.
Definitely. There is a world in which that Wyvern is not hard required, but could be extraordinarily beneficial to our runners. And that's also if it has exactly the pass, and then we find that Darkness Crystal elsewhere. Because whoever takes down that Wyvern and gets that pass is not going to have to walk the subterranean. We know that moon might not even be necessary in this particular flag, particular seed here. That could be a huge advantage too that's worth noting.
All right, we're going to take on that Octomam on Lenophis' side. We are Kane anchored, and this is a rather fast spot. Gets a couple of punches off before we can really even do anything. Two Zerks are going to come out. I'm a bit concerned about this. Kane going down, Cecil drinking wine, Cecil going down, Porum standing going, and we're done. Gonna need to come back and reevaluate that strategy. Probably want to slow anchor this and set up the blinks first would be safest, and then you can kind of start drinking the wine once a couple of blinks are going. But yeah, looking at everyone's agility, that curse string would be great on Palom. I don't think he put it on though, but the Palom might be slow enough anyways. And yeah, I think we're gonna get dueling. We had dueling DKC, that was kind of tricky. Now we've got dueling Octomam.
Definitely. And to quickly answer a question from chat, how is our Cecil armor? Are we close to being able to cover our way through this? No, we've not really gotten many good armor pieces at all in the seed. So cover strats are a little bit off the table at this point in time. The Octomam basically one-shotting Cecil as well. So at this point, not going to quite work out. But both of our runners back in this fight. We'll see if either of them going to succeed. Boney is trying cover strats though, so that might actually work out on his side.
Yeah, Boney with the blink and knowing that Cecil is still tanky enough to take a few of these hits. Not sure what he's wearing, but 490 is a very good damage value given how punchy this is. I forget which of the runners found the power shirt, but the power shirt's actually an incredible piece of defensive gear, an item that you only get in vanilla, like as a rare drop from behemoths, I want to say. But even like a fire armor or samurai or something, pretty much good enough. But even without, like the blink kind of alone functioning for what he needs here. So I really, really like Boney's approach to this fight.
Definitely, and he's showing, you know, a good sort of strategy around this too, knowing that he can cast a Lit 3 with Palom, which is going to hit for 9k, not quite quad 9s, but 9.2, and then just sit on Rose's turn, sit on Porum's turn, and just cast Blink over and over and over again and do nothing else. Leno's strat is more blink everyone and just have a wide way around it as opposed to having cover with that Cecil. So that's going to be quick too. The downside too of, you know, the cover strat is you can't berserk that Cecil, so that's going to slow the damage down. It might actually turn out that Leno's fight, while it may seem like a bit less safe of a strategy, is going to be the faster one here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like Lenophis' strategy of just YOLO. Sort of, this is a YOLO life with some blinks. And by not cursing that pal, I'm actually able to turn him into a contributor with those quakes as well. I definitely, as I'm watching this play out, like his strategy. Though Boney still ends up being first through the fight. Lenophis surely going to be hot on his heels. Getting a pan for their trouble, that represents more key items, more chances at bosses. I feel like we got to be getting near the end here, though you never know.
Definitely. We're sitting at 7 key items on Boney's side, soon to be 7 on Lenophis' side. We're getting close to that 10 key item point where we hit that double XP bonus. Boney going to go ahead and exit and not bother with his Wyvern, so if Leno decides to take that Wyvern fight and can get it down, that could be a big point later on. But Leno is through. Boney's heading down to go ahead and do this sort of triple key item check, because we have not seen Sheila 1 yet either.
Yeah, again, I think Wyvern's going to have exactly Darkness for it to be of immediate value, but we'll see what Lenophis wants to do. But yeah, otherwise I don't know if we've chucked the boss of the Luca Cave, but we're otherwise done with the underground. Aside from Fading Wyvern, obviously.
I believe we did. I did see Leno running down there, and I would assume that they would have done the boss if it was one of the required ones. I did not see which boss it was, but I know that they were going down the sealed cave at one point.
If nothing else, chat's always got our back, right?
Hopefully. There's so much going on both sides of this that it is genuinely hard to check at this point. Oh, open the door but left, so apparently did not go down the cave. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of thought we might have seen the full, but I don't know. It's been such an interesting seed. Boney getting just a protect ring, which is a pretty good piece of protective gear from the Yang Bonk. Gonna see what Sheila has. My favorite, by the way, is when Sheila is just holding the magma key. It's kind of one of my favorite moments in these seeds.
It is a wonderful moment, and then you look over at chat, and it's just a string of say the line over and over and over again.
You mean you don't want to say the line?
I don't want to say the line.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a funny quirk because with the Force Hook flag, you cannot find magma anywhere except through underground access. That magma key has to come somewhere from the underground. It could be that the Darkness Crystal came from underground and then magma key is on the moon, or it could simply be that Sheila 1, which is always an underground access thing, Sheila 1 could just hold your magma key, and I feel like, at least in my practice, frequently does.
I mean, it's kind of thematically appropriate in a way, isn't it? It's like, oh, he's in the underground, you will need a way to get down there, here you go.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, but I could, it's just like, but I do you know what I had to go through to get underground? And Sheila's just like, I'm sorry. But here's something else for your troubles.
I'm just not interested in helping out unless there's direct benefit to me, sorry.
All right, we see Boney heading into Baron Castle, the Baron Key coming from the Feymarch freebie. This represents 2 more bosses. We know Bygon's the Evil Wall, we'll get through that, and then 2 more shots and 1 more key item shot. Meanwhile, Sheila with the goods has the Darkness Crystal and...
I guess we can get underground now.
It's less of a... It's less sad because it like you just got something really hype out of the Darkness Crystal, so that like the magma key is sort of ancillary, so it's not so sad. But you know, for the sake of completion's sake, yay, we can get underground now.
We did it, team. Good job, everyone. All right, Leno is going to be following right over in order to get through these Baron Castle spots, so that's going to be important, but we're about to see what the first one is, and it looks like Boney is going to head to the throne room first. I told you this glitter would still be here regardless of what happened. You just can't get rid of it afterwards. I think it's trying to speak to us now.
I am at such odds. My deadpan, but this glitter, it's so I'm so excited by glitter, but it I think I need to hit the bricks.
Exactly. And speaking of hitting the bricks, Boney probably wishing that he could with the Mylon and Friends fight here, not the one we're looking for. We're about to be subjected to a pretty long cutscene of walking down a narrow hallway to look at a pot. But at very least, you know, we'll have this off the table. We'll have access to that Odin spot. Escrunt in chat, now I need to figure out what the most apathetic possible font to use for that would be.
Grunt, the answer is Comic Sans. Not the most apathetic, but certainly the most emotion-provoking.
I think Comic Sans is the most apathetic thing in a sort of ironic kind of way.
Yes, exactly. It's like kind of infuriating and would just lend credence towards the extra deadpan.
I think it needs that like Tetris attack victory theme behind it too that always sounds a bit sarcastic if you have a rough time with the level. But anyways, Lenophis is here at the Evil Wall fight. They're going to be through pretty quickly. This is not posing a threat. That Mylon and Friends, not really a threat at any spot for the most part, except for just if you hit it at the wrong time. So not going to be a threat either. We will see what this key item is now.
Comic Papyrus, chat really wishing for violence here, by the way. Just a Pinktail, another key item towards 10, but Pinktail at this point, Boney gets in that airship, drops back down, goes, wait, hold on. There is a boss in the Odin throne. Gonna go look at that first.
Boney might be more tempted by that Pinktail than Leno is. Leno has the X-Cal, Boney's still sitting on the light sword, might be thinking, this is my ticket to a possible sword here. That might be very, very tempting for him. And it's worth noting too that for all of the like advantage that X-Cal is given, really the only difference is that Twin Heart. But Leno is definitely making up more time, getting closer and closer to where Boney is. There was a 2-minute gap between them going underground. They're pretty much dead even now with that one boss advantage on Leno's side.
Yeah, I would say Leno is actually still hugely advantaged here because that Twin Harp is so disincentivized. It's very easy to fade it. Finding Ashura in the Odin throne here, not a quick fight to get through. We talked about that mage slaying gear. We don't really have access to it. Our options are reflecting spells or just getting a wall into Ashura and fighting her honestly. We'll see how Boney wants to approach this. I also want to say that X-Cal, we're in a very interesting seed where that X-Cal actually didn't provide the advantage it typically does because we had to fight DKC where the X-Cal doesn't matter. We had to fight Octomam in the Leviathan spot, which is resistant to the X-Cal. We had to fight D-Mist at Dwarf Castle 1, which is resistant to the Excalibur. And we have access to Quake, which has been honestly kind of good enough for both of our runners. It's just this odd collection of situations where that X-Cal just wasn't able to find value. Would find value throughout the rest of the seed if we have to do the moon, but that's not really a certainty at this point.
Definitely not. One thing worth noting too is that, you know, both of our runners did have access to a rune axe. There were rune axes back in the weapons shop down in Dwarf Castle, but neither one elected to pick those up. So maybe this is a spot where you're thinking, well, if I'd had a bit of extra money, I probably should have thrown it out there at least to help with this, help with, say, Magus Sisters if we find them later on down the line at a bad spot. But neither of our runners, I think, will have any problem actually getting through this fight regardless.
Yeah, Bonax would have been a great. That's Bonax. Runeaxe would have been a great pickup. My brain's still just on hit the bricks apparently, because they had so much money. I noticed. At least I want to say Boney did. But that mute dagger that we talked about earlier, and I want to say we've got 2 of them because Kane might be swinging at 2 at this point with these levels, hitting for near 3,000, 2,000 to 3,000 per swing. Certainly good enough. Something that you called much earlier in this race, by the way.
Definitely, Boney is now through, and there's the rat tail. Well, I think we're turning in that pink tail just by virtue of being there now, but that is another key item chance here. Yeah,
absolutely, especially for Boney. Lenophis has some incentive to fade both of them. doesn't really need the Pinktail reward and knows that Zot, unless it's Zot 2, isn't value, and the only other boss getting spot is that package, may just want to run to the moon instead. Meanwhile, Boney, not having that Darkness Crystal, not having completed the pan check, probably having set it up and then ready to do it after doing Baron here, it has more instead of turning that rat tail first.
The thing that strikes me is we're getting very, very much into go to the moon and face check the boss's territory.
Yes.
Especially on Leno's side. You'll need one boss. I would not want to do anything. I would want to just run down that moon, check every boss on the way, and just try and find either that Golbez or that Alt Gauntlet. And once I'm strong enough to take them on, which honestly, they might be strong enough to take on that fight at this point in time already.
Hey,
there's the crystal
we've got
sword.
the upgraded stick for Boney, validated, rewarded for not taking that X-Cal, fading that trap, getting the better sword instead, and then a bonus strength ring to go with it from the rat tail. Thanks.
Well, you know, it's always nice having more multipliers to add on to things at this point in time.
It
I think
really helps solve Boney's Zemus problem. We're going to need to take much less Sirens because of that. What I want to see these runners do at this point is take a few eggs, maybe get to Cure 4 and Rosa, or maybe just get to that end game level wherever you feel is safe for you, and then run straight to the moon like you were saying.
Definitely. The thing that's worth noting is that Golbez can be a massive pain in the wrong spot. And if we run into that Golbez save, we run into Golbez at like the Masamune altar down at the bottom, or if we run into the Gauntlet down there for that matter, this is a scary proposition. So probably two of the more threatening bosses that we could have had out of this set of objectives are the ones that we're still looking for. That's got to sort of weigh into your strategy a little bit too. I wonder if Leno is going to do some gold dragons once we get up to the moon here.
Yeah, I was just thinking they're both incentivized if they want with that Dragoon Spear. The gold dragons really are not too much of a problem. May just opt for that instead, as Lenophis is raising the whale and Boney is hot on their tail. Now again, Lenophis has that advantage. Lenophis went to the Twin Harp while they were both stymied by DKC on the hook route at the King Queen spot. Lenophis took that time to do the Twin Harp, only got a Poison Axe for his trouble, but more importantly got Paled him taken care of, and is now up one boss against Boney here. Very big advantage for Lenophis, I would say most likely.
Absolutely, and even just looking at the foot race again, there was that 2.5 minute gap there that has closed. Leno is actually slightly faster in terms of getting the whale raised, so at this point in time has gotten a little bit ahead. Boney still needs to find two bosses, and you know, the other thing that's worth noting here is even if both of those bosses on the moon, an Alt Gauntlet and a Golbez, are much longer fights than having dealt with a Pale Dim down at the Cave Magnus spot at this point in time. So some of that time that you spent running down is mitigated just by that alone, because you're going to be taking quite a bit of time in that fight at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And Lenophis taking a moment here to swap anchors, really wants to feel safe going to the moon. I will say that Cursed Ring is honestly good enough for Palom or Porum to kind of, you know, swap around as you see fit, but Lenophis is going to take that Sid and then start taking on some Sirens. Might actually probably going to give Sid experience at this point, and make him a reasonable chemist while also being that perfect anchor for the Zemus fight.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Boney taking the opposite approach, heading straight to the moon. This is another one of those things that could turn into a big decision point here. If Boney happens to manage to get through both fights, finds them quickly enough, then this grind time has to make up all of the time that is spent on it right now, essentially. And that's a pretty big question mark.
Absolutely, and Boney rewarded for checking this moon shop, hadn't found critically hourglasses yet, buys a whole pile of them, had all the money, says, I could just buy all that I need, I'll get 10. Thank you very much. The hourglass is going to make the gold dragon grind very quick and easy, and then also critically, if we find the Alt Gauntlet here on the moon, 5 hourglasses going to do you a lot of good in those fights.
Definitely turning one of the most threatening possibilities into one of the safest possibilities, and in fact, into a possibility that, well, we know in Boney's case that he doesn't know that Pale Dim is in the Twin Heart spot, so he might not necessarily be hoping for an alt gauntlet. But in this particular setup, the alt gauntlet is potentially a good thing, especially if you're not grinding immediately. You can get quite a bit of XP off of that. This is Dark Elf. That is probably not going to get taken. Here is grind time for Boney.
Yeah, I honestly love checking that before taking on these gold dragons here, because you're exactly right. If the alt gauntlet happened to be up here, that's just kind of your grind on top of a boss check. Would have been super efficient, but finds that boss, and honestly Dark Elf super weak against the Crystal Sword, probably could take that on before even doing this grind, but you want to take the grind anyway, so just take some of these. Probably going to get to the level that he feels is comfortable, and then take on the Dark Elf.
I think in his case, we have to look at this in terms of just the raw numbers at this point in time. So back down on the blue planet, we have Twin Heart, we have both of Zot, and we have the Sealed Cave left. Up here, we have 6 different bosses, plus the 2 on the Giant that you could also do if these don't pay off. I think just from a numbers perspective, Boney might be thinking, all right, the odds of 2 out of 3 bosses being up here on this moon or otherwise there is actually pretty good. So he might just be incentivized to not worry about key items at this point in time, because the only ones that are going to help him at this point are Package and Earth Crystal, and debatably pass, and just go for it and just base check and then run down to Zeromus if he happens to find them here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're at the point where it's just get the levels, get to where we're comfortable. Rose has got Cure 4. That might actually be Porum getting Cure 4. And then just go face check these bosses. Speaking of face checking, Lenophis being very thorough with the blue planet, gonna walk down the Luca cave. Heading over to kind of a rarely seen storage room. A couple pieces of loot. If you ever needed to loot Luca cave, 2 chests are in there. But yeah, we're gonna run down Luca cave, face check this boss. We've already gotten this key item reward, which I think was a Dragoon Spear from the warp glitch, but we don't know who this boss is. Could be our final boss.
Absolutely. And if you want to see more of that storage room, please, again, root for the future Dark Matter tournament that I know no one wants except for me. And there is a Baigan here. That's not the boss we're looking for, but it's one more thing out of Leno's mind. They know they can just basically go to the moon and head forward from here.
That's also a Baigan that's not on the moon, and that makes me very happy. Baigan just being very annoying to find at difficult locations.
Yeah, exactly. I think really at this point in time, it's probably Leno in the driver's seat, because Boney taking that time to grind as well sort of has evened out with Leno's grind here a little bit. We'll have a little bit of an advantage going down here, but again, both of those bosses that you're going to find up here, should he even find both of them, are not quick bosses in the least. So Leno definitely in the driver's seat right now, but this is still anyone's race.
Yes, Leno, for exactly what you said, is very much in the driver's seat. Boney has to get through both the Alt Gauntlet and Golbez if he wants a shot at this, assuming that we're going to fade that Twin Harp until kind of near the very end here, which is a very defensible play, by the way. That Twin Harp not having great odds at having, it's one boss, one key item. It just happened to hit on this seed. The 2 remaining bosses that could be on this moon are both very slow, so this is a precarious spot for Boney to be in. But like you said, anything could happen. It could be boss 1 into boss 2 immediately in the LST here. And we could very well have a race, especially if one of those bosses has a pass that Lenophis doesn't end up doing.
Definitely. The way I sort of conceptualize it in the Have All tournament is that when you have a sort of 7 out of 8 boss hunt like this, or any boss hunt where you're not required to get all of them, you sort of get a number of free fades, more or less, that are just the number of bosses that you're not required to get. And usually that's going to be packaged for most every runner or something similar to that. each successive one is a risk that gets bigger with each one there, but it's still a reasonable risk to take. And so, for every race that fading that twin heart loses, if that ends up going this way in this particular race, which again is not certain by any stretch of the imagination right now, there's a race that decision wins too. So that's just sort of the nature of the gambling at this point in time.
Yeah, for sure. This randomizer and other randomizers, and they are it's informed gambling, essentially. It's informed risk-taking decision making towards similar as poker, or something more like Magic the Gathering, of every check is sort of risky in that it may or may not hit, but you do them. Speaking of hitting, though, Lenophis finding that Golbez.
Finding that Golbez, and crucially finding that Golbez doing the top-down moon while Boney has headed down to this Crystal Sword altar, going to find good old King and Queen Evelyn. So a free boss fight, but not the one that he needs. This is actually quite bad for Boney. And sort of while we're getting through this cutscene of this fight, and while we're in this free boss fight on Boney's side, just to answer a quick question from Neptune Olympus, sorry for being somewhat new to this community. First of all, welcome. But what's the high-level difference between red and blue competitions? And what I would say is that yeah, the Blue Moon is kind of a high-power flag set that can have more variance to it, which is in and of itself a skill set. It's more about managing what gambles you take, whereas the Red Moon is a sort of more low-powered flag set where you're kind of dealing with more of a puzzle to get through, sort of like Alchemy just said, and making it a sort of more of find the solution, whereas blue is more how do you get through a seed when you're given a whole bunch of tools at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely the way, the difference between these two. Golbez being a sniper, by the way, just finding all the other targets except that reflected cane. Pass for Boney is very helpful, but Boney really in trouble here as Lenophis is in go mode after this Golbez goes down. But yeah, the difference between these two moons, yeah, like Nth said, the blue moon just gives you all the power and says, how do you get through these seeds with tools efficiently and quickly, which is a challenge. And the red moon says, how do you get through these seeds on limited resources quickly, which is also a challenge. Two very equal challenges, just two separate ones.
Definitely. I think it's kind of easy in some ways to sort of look at it like a difficulty modifier, but I don't think that's even necessarily accurate, because I think the skills, yeah, sort of like Mecha just said, the skills that you're testing in Blue Moon are so dramatically different from the skills that you're testing in Red Moon that it comes down to either, you pick which one you want to play in, either based on playing to your strengths or just what you find more fun. Personally, had I signed up, I would have picked Blue Moon because I appreciate these real high power seeds more, but either side's going to end up being just to your tastes. In this case, Leno through that Golbez fight, that is boss number 7. That is our full-on go mode now.
Crystal on hand for Lenophis and bonus Excalibur just in case you didn't have it. Meanwhile, Boney finding CPU in, I want to say that's the Ribbon Room, and gonna take this fight. It's a little bit gross, a little bit slow, and not one of our required bosses, though could lead towards a key item that leads to a boss. But yeah, this is really Lenophis's race to lose at this point.
Definitely, and that's not for any lack of trying on Boney's part. Boney's been playing a very, very good race. Unfortunately, a lot of his decisions, while good decisions, have not been the correct decisions for the seed in this particular case, so he will need Leno to wipe on the Zeronis fight, almost certainly.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this is informed gambling. You're making choices that want to lead you towards what we call EV positive. This is like a poker term, right? That says, over the long term, if I make these same informed decisions, I will turn up positive. I will have gotten positive results from them. It just happens in this seed, it's an EV positive play. I would say to fade the Twin Harp on most seeds because it most likely doesn't have value. It just, in this seed, happened to have it. And so, unfortunately for Boney, this is an elimination match. So this is likely his last seed in the Blue Moon tournament, but that doesn't mean that this was, a bad decision made. It just didn't work out for this seed.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Boney's races because I just tend to be more available to sort of be around for these daytime races, and Boney, being one of our European runners, is often racing during that period of time, so I've seen the growth as well from tournament to tournament. That's definitely worth noting. And I think that every given tournament, as our runners sort of grow, we get more and more parity at the top end of our runner spectrum, so to speak here. These tournaments just keep getting closer and closer each time. And definitely the next one, he'll be one to watch.
Absolutely. Everybody's getting so skilled at this randomizer. It's really, honestly, kind of stunning to see. A lot of community growth. And meanwhile, and I'm seeing all these Z flags in chat.
Absolutely. So if you're new around here, first of all, welcome. Make sure you drop by our Discord, join our community. We're wonderful people. Part of the reason why the skill sort of is growing, in my opinion, is because when you have friendly people helping you out, you get better at things quicker because you're more likely to stick with them and more likely to be willing to ask questions and like that. But this Zemus fight is too iconic in this location. It's too difficult. I'm not even sure it's technically possible to move it somewhere else, but this is still a randomizer. We still want to do something neat that's randomized with this, and the question that pops up is, what do you randomize in this case? And it is the appearance once we throw this crystal, which does lead to a question if you would like to go ahead and ask it today.
Yep, the question ends up being, whose butt are we going to kick this afternoon? Or evening, or morning, depending on where you are.
Absolutely, and most importantly, will it belong on Scala Kitty's super cool Sephiroth fan page on mooncities.com?
Chat furiously, conversation coming up hot and quick here about this. Scala's saying it's a little under 1% chance to hit a Sephiroth. There are a decent number of them in the pool. Over 570 sprites total. Get a little Dr. Mario.
Yeah, this is the 3 viruses from Dr. Mario, which I think does fall under the Is It Cute designation in this case.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a pretty safe Z-fight as far as Z-fights go. That's not to say there isn't potential for something to go wrong, but I think if I were looking at parties that I've seen throughout this tournament, this is one of the safer ones that I've seen. So we'll just need to see if they can execute it properly, if nothing goes wrong, if they don't get high rolled at the wrong spot, if this counter nuke does not land on the wrong person, which Cecil is probably fine. Yeah, I think they're in pretty good shape.
This also qualifies as a sprite with multiple butts.
It does, although viruses, as being sort of like single-celled organisms that debatably are not even organisms to begin with, we sort of kind of don't know. Last I knew, unless that's changed in the past few years as science has marched on, does lead to a question of, are there butts to begin with?
I'm gonna go with, if we've got arms and legs, that there's there's either butts or it's just I'm not gonna think too hard about this. It's just science is strange, isn't it?
If there are any microbiologists out there who would like to chime in on this at this point in time, please feel free.
I will say virus is manifestly not known for being able to help you with your 401k.
Definitely not. But, they're trying their best.
We have Schrodinger's butt, perhaps, since we don't know the state of whether it has a butt or not. It both does and doesn't have a butt until confirmed.
Absolutely. These are important questions that we will get back to you all on within 3 to 5 business days. Speaking of 3 to 5 business days, Boney is on this Golbez fight now at this point in time, which is always a slow fight, but not a particularly difficult fight in this particular setting. Should be through it fairly quickly, and that does lead to the question of, where is his 7th boss? I don't think that we found that alt gauntlet anywhere, and we know that Pale Dim is at the Twin Harp, so it might be quite a while before Boney even finds that 7th boss, which is deeply unfortunate for him in this case.
Yeah, no idea where it is. Hopefully Masamune Altar would certainly be the worst. But yeah, we'll see. Meanwhile, I want to go over to Lenophis' side. We have to shake in the Zeromus. The only way that this fight goes south by the way, is if a Big Bang comes out and knocks out Rosa, and then Rox comes shortly afterwards, which is a possibility with this damage output. We're going to nerf a Big Bang with the slow spell. A little tricky to do, by the way, because there is a bit of a delay on that spell, and you do need to hit this on really proper timing. But Lenophis, probably, knowing the timing here, because it's going to see 2 swings, and then if a Big Bang comes out, Palm throws the Cure 2. So by nerfing this, by making Zeromas cast the nuke spell by countering an action, lowering the spell power, and then keeping that spell power lowered for this Big Bang. Big Bang is not nerfed. Rosa does survive. I think a Cure 4 is queued. Now we're safe. There was a world that the Meteor could come out like kind of in between, like if Rosa hadn't charged up that Cure 4 right away, but I think we're safe and through this fight now.
Absolutely. Just meanwhile, over on Boney's side, just to keep y'all up to date on what he is doing, everyone's favorite tap dancing robot, the Giant of Babel, has come onto the screen in this particular case, and that's going to be his next set of boss checks. Giant Gauntlet sounds not very pleasant, but the alternative of not finding the Gauntlet is presumably worse in this case for him, so he'll be there, and there are rocks over on Leno's side.
Yeah, rocks, and probably the safest situation possible. Rosa is pretty healthy, Cecil and Kane also pretty healthy, and that is it. We are done. Lenophis is the winner of this elimination match. Very well done. Big GG's to Lenophis with an official race spot time of 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 27 seconds.
Absolutely, and we'll see if they want to come in for an interview or not, but either way, a very, very well-run race by them, and yeah, honestly, it all kind of came down a bit to that Twin Heart check in the end.
Meanwhile, that was a very quick run to the Giant. Looks like maybe Boney did not see what he wanted to see at the Elements spot, because seems to have reset and is going to head elsewhere.
This tells me that he's probably heading to the Heart, because there's not too many options left. Probably would have gone back and gotten more things, but we are joined by Lenophis, today's winner in this match. First of all, GG's and congratulations on the run today.
Thank you, GG's. I am more than certain I was going to lose this after having to back out of Babel and just get levels. That should have cost me the race. That should have cost me the race. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, you'll go back and find out that Boney got locked in the same exact situation without an anchor. So both of y'all were at DKC at the same time, both trying to puzzle through. So I think that's the great place to start here. Just tell us, kind of what was on your mind, and how did you decide on ultimately how to get through that?
Well, after this, I think it was either the second or third attempt after I moved Palom to my anchor spot, and I saw that Dark Knight Cecil was just doing too much damage. I couldn't heal enough. I'm like, okay, it's time to back out. We need to go back and make Possum Morpheus hate me because I decided to do Twin Harp. Sorry, Possum. I needed the levels. And it turned out that was required anyway because I think Paladin was up there. So that worked out double. And then I did the Zot run for another 9,000 experience. That ended up not being objective, but it was still helpful. And after that, I checked one more boss, I think Miss Cave, and then after that, I'm like, okay, I probably have enough now. Kane has 1,000 HP. We'll try it again, and we'll go from there.
Was there any thought on your mind while going through that of swapping anchors before heading back down?
Not initially, because Sid's base agility level is terrible, and I hadn't found the curse ring at that point, and I don't remember what Edward is as at his base level, so I'm like, if I'm gonna die, it's just gonna be with what I've got. I just gotta try and power through this somehow.
Yeah, it makes sense. You take on what you know essentially, and was able to get you through that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
And
yeah, definitely. That Twin Heart pretty much was one of the biggest deciding factors in this race too. So definitely was a good decision to go back there in the end. Was there ever a consideration to not leaving at that point in time? I know Boney did a sort of grind, just turned encounters on and ground through that way, and it did end up leading to a bit of an advantage heading underground. Is that a sort of thing that had crossed your mind at that point in time, or was it always just, at this point in time, I need to head out and just continue trying to make progress elsewhere?
I had to make progress. I knew just having to leave, I was likely going to be behind. I had to play aggressive. I had to make some kind of power play to catch up at some point. I'm not sure when that point was, obviously, because, it's a delayed race and I'm not watching, but I did a practice seed yesterday, and that was a 135, and there were a lot of bosses that I just guessed on, and it worked. Watery Pass ended up being Odin. Took a death to him early on, came back for him. Scouted the rest of the easy boss spots, and the bosses just seem to work out today. The going to tower immediately to scout elements, that was a nice find. Dwarf Castle kind of led to nothing. Luca Cave, as a long shot, led to nothing. That was just Beigen. Baron Castle, that had nothing, right? Besides the two tails, there was no bosses in there, right?
Yeah, it had Pink and Rat, which was oh, I don't know if you said, I'm not sure if you turned them in. They turned out to be the Crystal Sword and a Strength Ring, by the way.
that Crystal Sword might have been nice.
If it makes you feel any better, you hit the Excal that Boney did not hit in the Castle Eblin, so that just sort of just reversed the position that it had been for most of the race at that point.
Okay. Yeah, that Castle Eblin turned out to be a little bit of an issue too, because I died to I don't remember what I died
to.
The
Stalemen and the Skulls. Yeah.
That's right, because I sold the one item that would have helped against the skeletons, and it went downhill from there.
Yeah, those traps, it helps to go in slower anchored instead of fast anchored, because they're actually pretty fast encounters, since they're sort of like this mid-game, upper babble level of encounter. Right. And then, I don't know if you have the Stardust. I think you might have had the Stardust
Stardust
Rod, actually.
Stardust Rod and Life Staff were both in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are ways through it, but yeah, that's probably one of the trickier ones, because then also the Staleman likes to put your party to sleep, and then, yeah. But yeah, you were able to kind of go back and puzzle your way through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and life glitching the Mad Ogre chest in Lower Babel itself, I want to say that helped a little bit too, getting 7 kills for 4.
To get you towards Quake, it absolutely was helpful, yeah.
Yeah, and also just powering through BKC, because I have seen some rude monsters in that spot before.
That's one of the rudest. That is a rite of passage.
So with this win, that does mean that you stay alive down here in the Blue Moon Waning bracket. You're going to be going on to face Soapbox Gamer next week. I believe next week is round 2 of the Waning bracket. And yep. Are you excited for that match?
I am excited, and I'm going to get my butt kicked. That's my expectation with this tournament. There is a lot of strong competition in this tournament. I don't expect to make it very far, but I am going to try and keep winning and just keep pushing through as much as possible. Let's just see how far I can get.
I mean, given what this seed gave you, you put on quite a good show. I think you had a very clean race. I mean, yeah, DKC stymied you. It's going to stymie a lot of people that run down there without an anchor in it. The seed really wanted you to not run with an anchor with the characters it gave you. And, maybe like a little slow in Castle Eblin or whatever, like this little things, right? But I think I would be proud of that race. I think it was very well done. And I think you've got a great shot against the Soapbox Gamer, and I'll be super happy to watch that race.
Also, side note, every one of my seeds except for one has had an Edward, and all but 2 have had a late spoon, so no chance of that happening today.
We did try to will an Ed into the seed, but, we were talking about Edge, and then Edge shows up. Yeah, sorry.
All that Hanzo
really, you can
and no.
Yeah, I saw Masamune show up at some point. Could thank Scala Kitty, by the way, I suppose, if you believe in the the restreamers rolling nasty seeds.
Thanks, Scala.
But all right, I mean that's about it for me for questions. Do you have any others, Ant?
No. Leno, do you have any final thoughts for us today?
No, other than GG Boney, this was a rude seed, and I'll be happy to race you again in the future.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the interview again, GG's. Looking forward to seeing your match next week. And thank you again for letting us restream you today. It's been a very good race, and with that, Boney is now in the Zemus fight.
Yeah, Boney's got all the levels, 2,500 hit points on that Rosa. If we thought Lenophis's fight was safe, Boney's is even safer.
Absolutely, that Porum might even live through a fully unnerfed Big Bang at this point in time. It needs a good roll on it, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility. Palom will probably live through one, and the other three will definitely live through one, and they're the only ones that we really need alive. So it's just kind of a matter of kind of bookkeeping and hoping that you don't get like a really nasty combo platter with a side of bad luck on it.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of talking about anchoring, something we talked about a lot this seed because it was very important, it turned out. I do like just one final bit of, I like Boney's play to just probably slap that cursed ring onto Palom, and then kind of anchoring with him. Actually, this Big Bang coming out pretty quickly might not have put that cursed ring on him, but Palom is still the slowest party member of our 5, and yeah, so the curse ring would just make him a functional anchor without having to, to go back into the tower and swap out for like a sit or whatnot, right? So I really liked that play. But yeah, Porum and Rosa are probably gonna reflect some whites. We're gonna go full. Actually, Rosa gonna pick up Palom. We're gonna go full hybrid here.
Definitely.
Yeah, the shakes are pretty quick. I don't think we're curse anchored in this fight.
I don't think we are either, but I think we're in a case where, like, if Leno is at power overwhelming, Boney is at power overwhelming at this point in time. So should be fine either way. It might take a bit longer just because of, the Big Bang animation sometimes feeling like it takes 1.5 years to go off, and might lose Porum in this case. Has a risk of losing Rosa here, actually. This is a little bit dangerous. Actually, both white mages go down. We'll need to recover here.
Yeah, both white mages down. Bit of a tricky spot. It is recoverable. Just pick up one of your white mages and then, kind of soldier on. And we've got access to Cure 4 on 2 party members. Yeah, Cecil gonna drink up the wine again. Rosa gonna cure up the party. And then back to kind of a safer spot.
Absolutely, as long as this Cure 4 gets off in time, which it should, now that it's queued up, we will be fine. There's the Cure 4. As long as it does enough healing in order to get everyone up. Actually, Rosa's still in that danger zone right now. Palom looking pretty okay, as long as we don't get high rolled. We might get another turn on Rosa before that happens, though.
Rosa just going to cure up another one of those Cure 4s. Cecil attacked, so Rosa will get the Cure 4 off, going in party order here from the middle, top, bottom, top, middle, top, bottom. So yeah, that Cure 4 goes off. Kane's going to swing. We're going to get a Big Bang. Oh, actually, we might have tipped because Palom gets his turn and the Big Bang didn't come out. So extra safety here for Boney.
Absolutely.
And by tipped, I mean there's a point in the script where Zemus, for SNES memory, like programming memory reasons, can only have 65,000 hit points max, and the devs wanted this boss to have more like 100,000+ hit points. So their way of solving that was to have a script that says, when I take damage, I will refill my hit points back to maximum. And sort of a consequence of that at the right spot is that a Big Bang that got queued kind of gets unqueued because of that script that goes off. So that's why a Big Bang gets skipped there. But anyways, we're at rocks. Fight's going to be over.
Definitely a very, very well-run race from Boney. It's just one of those situations where, Boney took a lot of good decisions throughout the seed that just did not pay off for him. We'll see if he wants to come in for an interview with that final time of just barely a couple seconds over the 2-hour mark. But either way, a very well-run race by him regardless.
Yeah, it really just comes down to that Twin Harp, unfortunately. This ended up being one of those seeds where Twin Harp, really kind of bites you.
Definitely. I don't want to make that seem like we're, taking anything away from Leno's win in this case.
Absolutely not.
Ended up, and we are joined by Boney. First of all, GG's on a very well-run race.
GG's, guys. Thank you for the commentary. That Dark Knight Cecil.
Yeah, walk us through. I will say both you and Lenophis were at DKC at the same time, probably in full panic mode, as you both have the same party, the same setup, and kind of no good way through that fight. So I guess just walk us through like how you were feeling and what your strategy was to get through it.
I mean, when seeing it, I just happened to be doing a practice seed right before where I encountered DKC at the same spot. So,
Oh, wow.
Seeing that again, I was like, oh no. I was like during practice, like, this is fine because I'm practicing, but now it's actually here. So that was unfortunate. Realized I didn't have enough HP, and my just healing wasn't really there to guide me through. So in my mind, I was like, I'm just gonna have to grind. I'm not gonna abandon this hook. At some point, I'll get through, right? Just break through the wall and hope that darkness crystal is somewhere underground, because otherwise I'm probably in a bad spot. That was pretty much my thoughts. I mean, considering the characters that we got, maybe even if darkness was behind Harp at that point, maybe. I mean, there was the hourglass on the moon, so maybe, I don't know. That was my concern, right? What if darkness was already gotten by the Lenophis, and then I'm just banging my head against the wall when I could be on the moon at this point. So the moment I saw darkness, I was like, okay, I'm in a bit of a better spot, but still took me some time. But yeah, just very, very unhappy, but plenty of power once I got past that.
Yeah, definitely. Sort of what led to your approach being the approach of, I'm just going to get levels at this point to get through it? Because I know that was a point of sort of divergence between the two of you, and you did actually end up getting underground faster because of it. What led you to take that particular strategy as opposed to say, maybe go out and do other things, get a new anchor, something like that, in terms of getting through that Dark Knight Cecil fight?
Mainly the damage. Looking at the damage, knowing it's 600, knowing Cecil was pretty close to being in a spot where he could survive. Let me to go like, let's just go for levels. Let's make sure Cecil has enough HP so that the Cure 2s would be enough. I perfectly would have had a Cure 3 at that point, but can't have them all. And just go, and I tried to eke it out by going a bit earlier. Maybe not as safe as could have been, just to try and get past him faster. But yeah, no, eventually I just I was just hoping I would have enough HP at some point. And I mean, at the same time, having the Cecil, right, I'm hoping for something that actually punches, and obviously being the Cecil, that's it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Not a lot of mitigation possible. Whereas, like the Octomam, for example, that's a lot easier. If that was Octomam, no problem. But yeah, could have been plenty of other bosses, but it had to be him. But yeah, just went for the HP. Just hope I had enough HP and then power through.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think it's smart to just take the way through that will work and function, and yeah, you got your way through that. Really, I mean, the only other note for me at this seed, I mean, it was very well run by both of you, and I mean, in a high pressure situation, this is just one of those seeds where it happened to be, Twin Harp having the goods, Lenophis kind of taking that on while he was figuring out how to get through that hook route. It really only ended up, I'd say, being the difference between you two. I mean, it was a very, very, very well run race.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I mean, personally, just I felt like my decisions or whatnot, that was all fine, but I'd say more of a mood, I guess is the best way to put it. I wasn't really focused all that much, I noticed, until like, I don't know, like the moment I hit that Cecil, because before that I was just playing, not really realizing like, oh yeah, we're racing, obviously, because I don't know, I guess I had a long day, who knows. But it very much felt like I was not as focused, I suppose. But at the same time, it allowed me to just be relaxed, be chill, and not be too stressed out. It wasn't really until Moon was really starting to run dry that I was like, this is not looking good. But yeah, I felt like at that point, if this isn't it, perhaps Lenophis did a great job getting past Dark Knight Cecil, and if you got by faster, you got by faster, and if you got the boss faster, you got the boss faster. So I was pretty much like, yeah, this is fine. Especially when I was grinding King Ryu's at hour and a half in. I was like, I guess this is what I'm doing. I guess this is what the seed is. It was just meant to be, to not be a short seed. But it's, I suppose, more of a feeling, not too stressed out. And when I saw the dot done, I was like, all right, I can relax and look around and see where it was.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a great mentality to have in these races, that sometimes it's just the seed just really wants you to do a really specific thing, regardless of how you're feeling or thinking about it. And, you know, being able to take it in stride, I think, is a really great trait to have as a runner. But yeah, with that, unfortunately, that is the end of your run through the Blue Moon tournament. Do you have any plans with Free Enterprise going forward? You know, what might you do with your break time? Kind of where's your mind there?
I mean, definitely just following the tournament, as I usually do, though, through YouTube. All these matches are in the middle of the night for me. I can't watch all of them live, though it is fun whenever there is a match I can watch live. And other than that, probably just some casual seeds here and there, and wait for the next big tournament. It's pretty much been that so far, just really enjoying these big tournaments. And, you know, seeing whatever flag set comes out next. But other than that, just gonna be watching from the sidelines and just enjoying the matches coming up.
Yeah, well, glad to hear that. And also, Scala pointing out, please enjoy the memes. There is a meme, by the way, at the start of this race, if you go back and watch it. I forgot to tell Lenophis that.
Ooh, now I'm curious. Now I have to watch it back.
But yeah, glad to hear that. We love putting these tournaments on. Definitely a fun time, you know, for all of us, I'd say. But yeah, that's kind of it for me for questions. Any more from you, Enth?
No, just want to say, first of all, GG's on a very well-run race. You know, I've seen a lot of you as being one of the commentators that's available during like the sort of North American daytime in both this and Adamant Cup, and it's been really impressive sort of watching the arc of you improving each tournament. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully seeing you in the next one as well. And again, thank you for a wonderful race today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for just setting this up. As you say, right, it's you guys enjoy setting up the tournament, and I enjoy watching and playing in them, and I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. And I know it's, you know, these types of things take a lot of time, so I can only appreciate the fact that you all are doing this and putting this much effort in.
Yeah, so much appreciation all around.
Absolutely.
Right, well,
thank you again so much for joining us. Did you have any final thoughts for us beyond that?
No, not in particular. I think I've said what I wanted to say. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a win at least, but that's how it goes. I was just happy I had some fun races, and looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you in that. And again, thank you for letting us restream you today. And with that, that is going to lead us to the end of this restream. And this is only the start of a full day of Free Enterprise that we have going on here for you. Let me just pop up my list here. At 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we do have Frankie Bones versus J-Mac the Librarian over on RPG Limit Break. All of these times will be Eastern Time, by the way. At 7 p.m., we have TJ versus David over on Free Enterprise 2. I believe that is another one of our 3 Blue Moon Waning matches for today. At 8 p.m. on Free Enterprise, right back here, we will have Zoe Vermillion versus Reckless Charlie. At 8:30 p.m. on Free Enterprise 3, we have Endodo versus the Blue Wizard, our third of 3 Blue Moon Waning matches today. And our midnight special sort of back here on the main flagship Free Enterprise of Zilch 6 versus Pyre. That will be our last match of the day. Full day of Free Enterprise, no matter where you are, no matter what time you have to watch. I'm sure you'll be able to tune into a match for basically the rest of the day. And yeah, I think that's going to about wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so much racing to go on. There's even going to be a few matches that are going through Khadgar. If you haven't, definitely join our Discord. Even if you're just a viewer of Free Enterprise, if you come to our Discord, we have a Free Enterprise League category, and you can see in there a League Matches channel that'll let you know what matches are all going on day by day, and you get links for kind of a fuller schedule breakdown. So if you just kind of want an easier way to follow the tournament in general, I definitely recommend coming into our Discord. But otherwise, yeah, that's gonna be it for us for now. There's so much free enterprise going on, but for now, we're gonna head on over to Fantasia, who's gonna be doing some tournament practice. So you all know what's coming in the future, and of course, no spoilers for Fantasia, but otherwise, yeah, that was me. That was Nth, Scala Kitty on restreaming, and Darth Plague on tracking. Didn't get a great chance to shout out our restream team. Always can't ever have these streams without those folks. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. And for all of us, have a nice afternoon.